Hello students, welcome to La Excellence. Welcome to our second session on India Yearbook 2017. We'll be starting with the sixth chapter. The sixth chapter is actually about the basic economic data. Fortunately, we have the latest economic data, so we need not look into this in detail. But there are some factual information which is not available elsewhere about these data. So we need to focus on those factual informations. One is actually with respect to the ministry itself. Which is the ministry which is actually involved in giving this data? It is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. This has two departments. One is focusing on statistics and the other one is actually focusing on program implementation. When we talk about the statistics, you might have heard of Central Statistical Organization and National Sample Survey Office. These two have been redesignated as National Statistics Office. Right? So it's very important for us to consider these two factual information. Now within this, when we look at the statistics, especially with respect to CSO and NSO, we will be usually getting information with respect to inflation, WPI. All these related topics are usually available in. And the second important thing is, we usually come across things like MP-LAD scheme. Most of us get confused that MP-LAD is actually under Ministry of Urban Development or Ministry of Rural Development, who have read before. But it actually comes under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, especially with respect to the Program Implementation Department, where we are actually looking at MP-LAD scheme. It is very important for us to focus on the MP-LAD schemes as much as possible. The reason for this is that nowadays you have certain programs associated with the government and the MPs where they are actually involving in development of a particular district as well. I'll be showing you Lok Sabha MP should be taking care of what, Rajya Sabha MP should be taking care of which area. All this can be questions from this. So from prelims point of view, some factual information about this is important. But before going with that, we should be careful if they ask you MP-LADS comes under which ministry. It is under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, right? So after this, let's quickly move to some of the factual informations which are actually available in this particular chapter. That is about the inflation first. So if you see page 112, the last paragraph actually talks about the consumer price indices for all India and states or union territories, separately for rural, urban and combined. So CSO is the one which is actually involved in consumer price indices. So please be aware of this particular fact. Then please see price statistics once. You would have already read this in economy, which is the base year for inflation of rural, urban, all this very important. Please try to go through this once. Even in the economic survey, I have already told you that this particular fact is important. So please be very careful about the price statistics. Then you have to look at the inflation rate once, where they are actually talking about the consumer price index combined. I have already showed you there is a wedge between WPI and CPI. High possibility a question can come. I have already told in economic survey as well. Again here it is being explained in detail. If at all you have not read, even now please go through this inflation rate and this particular paragraph in this chapter. So guys, then please open page number 137, where you have to actually look at the salient features of MP-LAD scheme. Within this, what is more important for us is, under MP-LADs, the role of MP is limited to recommend to the works, and then the elected members can recommend works in their respective constituencies from Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, anywhere from the state, and those who are nominated can recommend works for implementation anywhere in the country, right? So this is very important for you. This can be asked from prelims point of view. These three lines, please try to go through it carefully once. Let's quickly move to the next chapter where some factual informations are important again. So guys, next in page 139, that is next chapter, you have something with respect to integration with global economy. As you're all aware, this year Trump is in news and he is actually focusing on protectionism. He do not want the world community to move forward with globalization. But if we want to know the impact of this on India, it is very important for us to look at how exactly India is integrated with the global economy. The Department of Commerce is actually involved in this, and then when we are looking at this particular thing, it is very important for us to look at the global value chains. What is the meaning of this? For example, if you take the import and export of India, do you know which one is the maximum one? Petrol products and gems and jewelries, we import more and we export more as well. The reason for this is we actually import the raw and we actually send the finished goods when it comes to gems and jewelries or also petroleum. So, global value chains means there will be certain industries at different places which will add value to these goods. For example, diamonds, when we take it, we make it jewelry and we send back. So here a value addition for that diamond or gold is actually happening in India. So this is what we call value chains. Global value chains exist across the world. This is multinational companies which are there at different parts of the world. So India is also part of this. India is integrated into this, and if any impact on this will have impact on the Indian economy as well. So this is what it wants to highlight, and I want you to read this carefully once. And in the next page, the most important thing about the Trans-Pacific Partnership and RCEP is given. Now the TTP is of no relevance once US went out, but still, if there is a question, this paragraph will be very helpful for you. Please read it. Again, with respect to devaluation of yuan by China, we are talking about the rare index. I have shown you this in economic survey. I am showing you this in India yearbook as well. There is a specific context in which these news are important to us. So please ensure that you are reading this carefully, and before mains you can mark the TPP1 as mains and try to ensure that you read it carefully. High possibility you may get a question about this. Then let's quickly move to page number 156, where you have to focus on ease of doing business and governance initiatives. This topic is very important for us. Within this, we also have to look at reduction of documents. Rare, they are actually talking about ease of doing business. When they are focusing on doing business easily, then they are actually talking about the trade facilitation agreement, where the developed countries in WTO has asked India and other developing countries to ensure that the process at the importing station has to be so easy that once the goods of that particular country comes to India, it should not be delayed. For that, the ease of doing business was important and reduction of documents were also important. At the same time, it is important to ensure that most of the companies, they do not want to come and invest in India, mainly because of the corruption and other problems that exist in the system. To reduce the number of offices the people have to go to get the permission, we are looking at reduction of documents, right? So this is what we see with respect to ease of doing business. Apart from the reduction of documents, the other things just see once. If in mains they ask you about ease of doing business, you can write 1 or 2 points about this. Just go through it. High possibility they won't ask you a question, but still what were the measures taken by the government when they ask you. It is important for us to see all this information in detail. Then in page number 160, we have to look at the Myriad Bandhu scheme. In September, current affairs also I have told. What is Myriad Bandhu scheme? It is actually with respect to an officer from the Department of Foreign Trade who will be associated with the new entrepreneurs to tell them what are the new measures or measures that needs to be taken to ensure that their products are sold outside India. To help the new entrepreneurs about the rules and regulations of exports, Myriad Bandhu scheme is brought in just to increase exports. High possibility they may ask you a question about it. What is Myriad Bandhu scheme? So please know it is actually associated by Department of GFT, right? So please guys look into this once. Then in page 160 itself, you have India's engagement in the free trade agreement. Within this, the statement where it says India views FTAs as building blocks towards the overall objective of trade liberalization as well as complementing the multilateral trading system. So this question is very, very important for us. They can directly give the statement and ask you to elaborate about it. What exactly does that say? It is trying to say that there is actually free trade agreement between India and other countries. At the same time, there is MFN status according to the WTO, right? So if we are focusing on FTA, that is, we are trying to give more concession to the countries through FTA, but we are not giving similar concessions to all those countries. So isn't it against MFN? Right? So this is what the question actually comes. Many people earlier used to ask, is FTA against WTO? The reason why they used to ask was FTA is actually against MFN status. Now here they are actually talking about India is trying to go for FTA with multiple countries just to ensure that over a period of time we will be coming together across all these countries in WTO, and then we will be working together. This is what they actually want to talk with respect to India's engagement in free trade agreement, right? So please be careful. Earlier they used to give boxes where they used to explain with which countries we have. Here you have a paragraph where they are actually focusing on with which countries we have this agreement. You should understand one simple thing. When we talk about PTA, Preferential Trade Agreement, I am actually considering with Pakistan. For example, India and Pakistan relationship is not good, but somehow we have come together and we felt that let's have a preferential trade agreement, or let's have a free trade agreement. Pakistan will have its own suspicion, India will have its own suspicion. So India and Pakistan will tell, as we cannot trust each other completely, or we don't know how exactly the people will react for this, let's go for some 10 products first. Preferential trade agreement only on 10 products, so that we understand whether the things will work or not. If there is positive response for this, then we can actually go for multiple products. That is free trade agreement. So this is what we call preferential trade agreement is only for few products, whereas free trade agreement will be for more number of products, usually for 100 or 150. This is very, very important for us to look. Right? After looking at PTA and FTA, there is something called as CEPA and SECA as well. That is Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Here what they do, they try to take not only about the free trade agreement, but also investments. They also talk about exchanging technology. Many things comes into picture in SECA and CEPA. So here we are talking about PTA, FTA, SECA, CEPA based on the relationship we can have with this country. There is no formal definition that we call something to be CEPA or SECA or PTA or FTA. It all depends upon the countries. Wherever they are comfortable and based on their own interests, they usually come together and do that. Don't get confused, because this topic most of the students get confused. That is the reason I explained it. So once this is done, I'll show you with some of those countries where India is having trade. But try to see this once, that is trade with ASEAN. As I keep telling, every year UPSC asks you one or the other question with respect to ASEAN, because there are lot of departments, ministries and also NGOs working on how exactly India's relationship with ASEAN can be improved, whether it is economically, politically or militarily as well. But here we are talking about trade. It's very important for you to know, because high possibility they may ask you a question like, India's relationship with ASEAN is not as much as accepted, or what measures need to be taken. At that time you have to give these examples, right? ASEAN is very, very important. Anything with respect to ASEAN, you should be conscious and you have to read it carefully. Then please open page number 162. In page 162, you actually come across dispute settlement, right? WTO dispute settlement body everyone is aware of. But developing countries and least developed countries have always requested WTO to consider some of the facts which are important for them. One major fact which they all were asking is, with respect to dispute settlement, is about facilitation of cross retaliation, inducement of effective compliance and setting up of dispute settlement fund, right? What exactly do you mean by this? First thing is that, let us take India actually filed a case against United States in WTO. It is with respect to software or IT. Okay, so India won the case. And the WTO told India that you can also put similar sanctions on United States. But if you see, India exports software technology to United States, but US do not export to India, right? It is only from Indian side where this is actually happening. When we are actually looking, India is exporting, but India is not importing. At that point of time, how can we put sanctions on United States? So what India was asking is, if US has put sanctions on one of the major product which India is exporting, and in return if India is not importing it back, then what we should be given is, we should be given an opportunity to put sanctions on other products which US exports to India. So if I am actually giving, or if I am putting restrictions on similar products with respect to US, I will call it to be retaliation. If I am doing it for other products, I call it to be cross retaliation. So this word is very, very important. The second important thing is inducement of effective compliance. Sometimes, even though the WTO dispute settlement body has given a verdict saying that this is what you need to do, several developed countries will not comply with this. Only developing countries will be following all the rules and regulations. We say that rule is only for the weaker. It is not for the rich and powerful. This is what most of the developing countries usually say. And then they say that there should be dispute settlement fund. That is, if we have spent money or if there is any loss, the money has to come from this. So this is what they actually talk about this. Very, very important. You have a topic in international relations where they say that discussions at international fora and the impact of that on India. Please ensure that you are going through this carefully once. Then in page 162 itself, read about the role of standards in international trade. Just go through it once, especially the second paragraph is important for you. Then in the same page, please go through standards in services once, right? So if you can go through this from mains point of view, it will be beneficial. Please, in your WTO notes, try to read what is this MFN tariff, preferential tariff, rules of origin and non-tariff, all this. If you have doubt, you can just let me know. I'll explain you in further classes, but these concepts please try to see once. Then in page 167, you have actually FTAs in force. So please go through that carefully once. Then you also have PTAs in force. They may ask you questions about this. India, Mercosur, India, Chile. With India and Afghanistan, it is not FTA, it is PTA. So please be careful, right? Read these things once. Then in page 179, fifth paragraph, you can actually see 9 pillars. I'll show you the meaning of all this, e-Kranti and all. Just try to go through this. High possibility they may ask you a question. This was a year of demonetization and government was also talking about digital India. At that point of time, this particular topic is important for you. Just try to see which are the 9 pillars. If you can use these words in mains answer writing, I am sure you'll be getting good marks. So mark it as mains and read it carefully. From prelims point of view, these words like e-Kranti and all, what exactly does that mean? I'll show you next. In page 181, fifth paragraph, they actually talk about this e-Kranti policy on adoption of open source software in e-governance system, email policy, policy on use of IT resources, policy on collaborative applications, development by opening source code of government applications. All this is very, very important. Please try to go through this carefully once. Then in page 181, the last paragraph talks about Vikaspedia. It is not Indian version of Wikipedia. It actually provides information on health, education, agriculture, social welfare and e-governance. It's very important for you to focus on this once. Don't think much. Please try to read about this only once, right? These are factual information important from prelims. Page 186, please try to go through cyber security, and also you have to look at the botnet and malware analysis center, right? It's very important. They may ask you question in prelims as well. So please go through these definitions of cyber security carefully. High possibility question can come. Demonetization, Digital India, and if you go for Digital India, the problem is with the cyber security. So all these three are interrelated. So high possibility you can get questions in this. From India yearbook, if you can read these, it's enough. You would have read much detail in science and technology itself. So please go through it carefully once. Then at last, in page 196, you have to look at the vision of Digital India, where the focus is actually about the Digital India. High possibility you may get a question. Within this, we have to focus on LIMS. What exactly is this? LIMS is an easy to access web-based tool for comprehensive regulatory and proactive monitoring of court cases. Right, guys? So please go through this carefully once. LIMS is important. The other two things you can read. High possibility Digital India question, as I am repeating again and again, demonetization, digitalization, Digital India. Go through this once, right? Again, above that they are actually focusing about the 9 pillars. This is the reason I am asking you. They may give which are the 9 pillars of Digital India. Please be careful. Try to go through it once. So guys, then from IR and internal security point of view, you have to go through page number 198 to 208. Every line is important. If you can use this language in your mains exam, high possibility you may get more questions. Here they have taken with respect to every country and told what is happening with the neighboring areas, and at the internal security wise they have also talked about every problem, that is Jammu and Kashmir, what is the problem, Northeast India, what is problem, Naxalism, what is the problem. So these things in detail and what has the government done till 208, it is very, very important. Please read for prelims once, mains it is mandatory for you, right? But only from prelims point of view, 208 and 209 is very important. Let's see what it is. In 208, you can actually observe the overseas operations. Please try to go through this once. They may ask you, what is this actually about? Not the exhibitions and all, but what is more important for us is actually with respect to Lokayan 15. But in next page, we actually have exercises with foreign navies. Definitely you can expect a question on this. Malabar 15, India, US and now Japan is also part of it. Varuna 15, India and France. Simbex, easy to remember, Singapore and India. Then you have Ocendex, which is Australia and India. Then you have Konkan between India and UK. Slinex, easy to remember, Sri Lanka and India. Indra, easy to remember, India and Russia. They may give match the following. Please ensure it's important. In the monthly current affairs, I have given you joint exercises with respect to armed forces and also air forces. Even disaster management we have seen. So please ensure that you're reading all this carefully. Then in page 211, please try to see operations. Specifically try to go through the acquisitions and upgrades once. You would have read in science and technology, defense, different equipments. Please go through this once as well. So guys, next open page 237. In page 237, you have to actually look at the midday meal scheme. We know that midday meal scheme is actually under Ministry of HRD, but nowadays lot of complaints are also there about this. You might have heard that few children have died. So what has the government done? Is it a loophole in a particular school or is it there throughout the country? If we have to see, first try to see the norms. First, calorific value of the midday meals. They may ask you a question about this. Please go through this carefully. They may change it and ask you. Please read this carefully once. Calorific value. The second most important thing is about the Tithi Bojan. What exactly does that mean? If there is any festival or if there is birthday or any function, so people can actually go to the schools and give one meal to the children, or they may actually distribute sweets and all. So this is called as Tithi Bojan. So in different schools or in different states, under different names, this has been taken care of. It was actually introduced in Gujarat. Later, different states also undertook it. You can see Sampriti Bojan in Assam, Dham in Himachal Pradesh, Sneh Bojan in Maharashtra, Shalegagi Navu Nivu in Karnataka, Annadhanam in Puducherry, Priti Boj in Punjab, and Utsav Boj in Rajasthan. Right guys, so all these are important. Please try to go through this carefully once, right? They may ask you with respect to this. Fine sir, once if it is not functioning, what should we do? We should actually go for Midday Meal Rules 2015, where they have told what should be the rules and regulations to ensure that least impact is seen on the people. So here they also talk about testing of food samples, where before giving it to the students, randomly it will be picked and it will be tested, or even after giving to, just to ensure whether the quality is maintained or not, the calorific value is maintained or not, they are going to check. The other most important one is there would be social audit by the villagers or the panchayats to ensure that the food that is being served to the children are good. So if they give you a case study and ask you what are the problems associated with midday meals, or you're a district collector, in your area there are 10 children who actually became sick mainly because of this midday meal scheme. So what measures do you take? So these are the measures that you need to take. Calorific value, high possibility they may ask you in prelims, and even Titi Bojan and related names can also be asked. So please be careful about these. Then in page 244, there is something associated with emphasis on girl education, especially the Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas. Very, very important. Go through this, where they are focusing on gender at large, Swachh Bharat toilets being constructed. Then usually we see that the number of girl child who are actually going for the school will also increase. Attendance also will increase of these people. Then you have new initiatives, very, very important. First one is Rashtriya Avishkar Abhiyan, where in the age group of 6 to 18, children are encouraged to read science, mathematics and technology. Very, very important. They may ask you a question about this. Please try to know what is Rashtriya Avishkar Abhiyan. They will not go in detail. They may just ask you about this, from which age group to age group and what is the focus. Then if you actually see the next program, that is Padhe Bharat, Bade Bharat. Here they are actually focusing on ensuring that the quality is maintained at the school level. It is being said that the class 3, class 4 child is not able to answer class 1, class 2. So to ensure quality at the foundational level, that is at 1 and 2, this program was actually launched, especially to give them the basic numeracy skills. And the other important thing is, you might have seen in UPSC also many people protested about the CSAT. Mainly they said there is advantage with few people and not for others. But CSAT is also important for governance. So they ensured that this will be there to improve the quality at every level. Then in page 246, you have another scheme called as Saaransh. Here they are actually trying to compare schools on the basis of their performance. Even children can know which school they have to choose, and the performance and ranks, everything of the children will be available on this app. So this is an online facility that is being given. So they may ask you online facilities. Lot of apps and online facilities this year has been launched. Just try to ensure every department has one or the other app. So they may ask you in match the following about it. No doubt these type of questions, especially whenever government introduces anything new for the people, will always be important. Try to ensure you remember them carefully. Then in page 248 you have Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, where they say that the IIT, IAS, they have to adopt villages and try to give rural technologies which can help the rural people to come out of poverty. Then you have Yukti, yogic alacrity ki technique, where the focus is on traditional crafts and arts as a means of livelihood for the people. Then Saksham, scholarship for differentially abled children. Saksham, as I have told, awareness creation is one. Different ministries have different things. In September current affairs, I have specifically mentioned about this. Here they are actually talking about scholarship given for differently abled people. Please be careful. Different names are associated with different projects. Sometimes same names are also there for different programs. Then you should be careful. Then you have Ishan Uday for students of Northeast India. Please remember, they may ask you what exactly does that mean. It is actually special scholarship scheme for the Northeast region. Then you have Ishan Vikas, where academic exposure for northeastern students, where the focus will be on helping the schools and colleges in northeast to come in close contact with IITs, NITs and other engineering colleges as well. The other important program is UDAN. Here you should be careful. There is something called UDAN, Ude Desh Ki Aam Nagrik, UDAN. It is UDAAN. Here they are actually talking about the girl child or girl children's ratio in IITs and NITs are low. So to help these children after +1, +2 to enter into IITs, this UDAN program is actually launched. So there is difference that is actually associated with airports and common man to move from one place to another place. Here they are actually talking about girl child education. So please be careful about these difference. High possibility UPSC can try to manipulate this. Then in page 249 you have Sakshar Bharat, where the focus is on adult literacy and Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Skills will be developed just to ensure that the adult people also get right job opportunities. Then you have Pragati, where scholarships are given for girl child for technical education, and it aims at providing encouragement and support to girl child to pursue technical education. UDAN is also for that, Pragati is also for that. Then in page 251, you have to focus on Swayam, study webs of active learning for young aspiring minds. Very, very important. They actually focus on massive open online courses just to ensure that students can sit at home and get skills, right? So this is also important. Then in page 253, please try to focus on copyright. The first paragraph is important, where it actually talks about how exactly copyrights needs to be given. IPR patents, you have 8 different patents that can be given. One is copyright, the other one can be patent itself. The third one, geographical indicator. So please try to go through these 8 definitions carefully. In the current affairs sessions, I'll be giving you those 8, but please ensure that you revise from your notes again and again, right? Patents is also very, very important. India is planning and trying to do as much as possible for this. Marrakesh Treaty was actually associated with copyrights, and also we have come across copyrights in multiple places with respect to current affairs as well this year. So just try to ensure that you are going through these definitions carefully. Right guys, there was also a question in High Court where they were actually talking about, is photocopying of books permitted? So, or should we exempt it under the copyright? So the court said you should actually exempt it. It would be very difficult for the students to pay or purchase that much. So all these have made copyright to be important, or patents as a whole to be important, right? So these issues are very, very important for you from these 5 chapters. Every session we will try to take 5 chapters and we'll try to cover which all are important in that. As of now, we saw the 5 most important chapters and we have also seen those lines. My sincere request to you is, if you read these lines, it's more than enough. I have gone through every line and I have seen which lines will be asked in exam and where different questions can come. You can trust us and you can read only those. Try to revise these lines as much as possible. If you feel like reading more, the points which I have told, please read once. You read it now and try to understand it rather than wasting time in reading entire book, right? Thank you guys. Thanks for watching.